You can, right?
That definitely comes up on camera. You're doing well. And with the pots on the head, we welcome you to the elder meeting for May, kind of May, June. And we have quite a few elders on this evening. Thank you very much for showing up. I'm going to go ahead and award 800 XP for those of you who are on here and go that route. And then if this meeting goes longer, which I'm trying to keep it a sensible amount of time, then we can go ahead and give additional XP as it's needed. So please take a look at the itinerary. And I think I have everybody done up. And XP has just been awarded, so take a look and make sure that nobody was missed in the event I can't see your screen. And I'm feeling left out with the hat, so I'm going to get a hat.
Does hair braids count?
Okay, I'll get a hat. Give me a moment.
I'm smiling, I promise.
So Narlug started a hat competition of which we've all pretty much synced up with. So well done, LZ, for theming this elder meeting. Did I miss anybody in XP? Looks like I got everybody. Yes, this meeting should go under 4 hours. Thank you very much. Trips. Let's try to keep it to an hour if we can do that. That'd be great. Everybody's like, yeah, right. We are recording this session, so if you do have to, if you're going to say some words, we encourage you to do so. Just please don't swear if you can help it, and we'll go that route. All right, so the first topic, and once again, when you're ready to talk, raise your hand or put something in the chat box. Remember that the videos, people can't see what's in the chat box, so if there's something funny, you got to actually say it. For some reason, this program does not record the chat box. And if it does, I just don't know how to do it. All right. So do you have a lampshade on your head, James? That's awesome. Lampshade is duly recognized and represented. Zimone, what do you have? Oh, is that like that's a dead animal of some sort? All right. Taking it. What is that, a coyote? What is that?
Raccoon.
Oh, raccoon, okay. So as we're trying to talk sensibly for everything, we're having some issues with elders who aren't eldering or don't know how to elder. And this is a fault of LarpCraft We do not provide a lot of good material for elders, and we have to, as we talked about in the last elder meeting, I believe, we have to try and come up with the LARP University. So we have a set of criteria that elders have to conform to. We've already started doing this in the elder agreement. Elders do represent LarpCraft, and they do represent the colony. So training elders properly is a vital tool and vital part of growing and expanding a colony in the proper way. Problem is, not a lot of colonies, especially new colonies, they don't know how to train elders properly because we don't provide training even for the chief elders, really. We do a little presentation and a talk, but really beyond that, you have to go to the elder scrolls to pick up the information. So again, we're addressing the issue from the LarpCraft side by putting together a set of criteria and some classes that the elders will have to pass before they can become elders. That's going to be the next step. And it's not like a super hard thing. It's mostly common sense stuff. Go ahead, Tim, go ahead.
I know I have a group of elders right now. We kind of know the rules, but can we go through the classes just personally, just to make sure that we are right and don't say any wrong information?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's any questions about rules and eldering, you can post in the elder section so that we can, those resource scrolls are there to ask those questions that you may not know the answer to. And a lot of times what that's done is it's actually changed the rules because it wasn't clear. To this day, I answered some Death Knight questions today that Spirit Trap ability is just written wonky, you know? So it has to be further explained. And we're progressing as all of us on doing that. So please use the elder section. If you think it's a dumb question, don't worry. Don't be embarrassed. Just post it in the elder section because chances are if you ask the question, a lot of others ask the question as well. So try and make sure that you utilize that. And if you don't feel comfortable asking it in the elder section, feel free to ask myself or others in a private message, and that'll be fine. Does that answer your question? Okay, good. Tim's putting his thumbs up. Okay. As for elders who are not eldering, I really stress to colonies and elders, please practice as an elder team once in a while. Get your elders together and go through some of the things that may cause confrontation. We don't have an expectation that an elder needs to know the rulebook verbatim. It's not possible. You can know most of it, but we don't expect every elder to know the rulebook frontwards to back. What we do want elders to know is how to access that information, which is why we want elders to have the rulebook on them if they can, or a rulebook nearby, to know how to get the information. It's okay for an elder to say, I don't know the answer to that. Let's go find out the answer. That's okay. But just to say, I don't know, let's make it up. That's wrong. Because then you make it up the wrong way. It goes in the scrolls. 2 players tell 3 other players, blah, blah, blah. And it snowballs into something that it shouldn't be. So, and also like with confrontations. How do you handle a confrontation? Pull the problem player aside. Don't make a mockery of them in front of a big group. Handle things in a smaller setting. You know, just basic common sense stuff that you wouldn't consider common sense if you don't have any training like that. We're going to go ahead and make videos and tutorials on how to do that. What do you do with a bad apple player? What do you do with a bad apple elder? What happens when your colony starts falling apart? I mean, basically every elder situation that could come up has pretty much come up. What happens when the cops come? What happens when somebody brings a real sword to a game? That's all happened. So we can actually address all of those issues. And some of you are like, what? I mean, in the 5 years and hundreds of games, it's happened. And I know some of you have even other horror stories from other game systems that you could also share. So point is, elders, please train with other elders about, run some scenarios. You can run a role play basically as the elder team. practice running registration. Practice running a disgruntled player at registration. Practice a drunk or somebody on drugs or something. You know, all of these situations that could wreck a game, practice them and share them in the elder section or write a blog post. Anything that you share like that that's worth training XP will be given to you if you do that, if you help create the system. I can't think of everything. We have a lot of educators in the system that have formal training on this. We have law enforcement in the elder system that have training on this. I am asking those who have experience, please help us put together some of this criteria so when we put the actual university thing together, it's pretty polished. If an elder at this current time, if an elder goes rogue and misrepresents the colony or the system as a whole, we'll simply just take them off of the elder. We'll take them out of the elder section. We'll take them off of as elders. It really hasn't been a big deal, but what we are seeing is a lot of elders that aren't doing anything. So we don't really have a lot of elders that are problem elders. We just have a lot of elders and, you know, from colonies that have come and gone, there's no good way on the system right now to track without going through all 4,000 profiles who has that colony information on them. We started using the elder achievements, which you can see who has the elder achievements, which is good. But some of them don't even have the elder achievements. Like they were in the system even before the achievement stuff started. So if you see an elder that doesn't look like they're supposed to be an elder, send me a PM or, you know, put it in the elder section of like, hey, I don't know, like Grey Corps and some of the others have gone through and weeded through their files, and, you know, everybody's got to kind of watch out for their own colony. So try and make sure that that is happening. We want to represent LarpCraft in the best way possible. We want to make sure that gamers have a good time and that when they think of LarpCraft, you know, they're thinking of a quality, fun-filled, family-friendly organization and the colonies that represent the system in itself. So that's all really I got to say about that. Next, the next post is primarily talking about me. When the chief elders and folks like myself that are part of the administration team start posting, spewing negativities, the damage that causes throughout the entire system is unfixable. And it will ripple effect for sometimes years past whatever that incident was. So whether it's myself or anybody else, we have to all kind of self-administrate ourselves in preventing word puke. So if a scroll, especially if a scroll starts going south, a lot of times what I'm doing is I'm just locking it because it's not going to go the conversation's gone sour, and I'm just trying to prevent bad things from happening. So if myself or anybody else is posting in an improper manner, private message the person that's not posting correctly, whether it's intentional or not. It will look bad on the system. So as elders, we gotta self-regulate ourselves. And we all have bad days. We all, people die, fires happen, plague, whatever it is, family life, there's just all factors of why somebody would lash out or whatever would happen. And again, I'm talking about myself. I've done it myself, and it sucks most when I do it. So this organization is growing by leaps and bounds, and it can't happen anymore. That's just the simple way and truth about it. So shut her down, leave the scrolls for a while, cool off, hit the punching bag or whatever. What helps me out is I'll call Grey Corps or Murdoch or Ronan or Mitri. I'll word spasm over the phone, and that'll help me relieve that, try to relate to people. And over the phone is way better than on the scrolls anyway. So if you can communicate by voice, or put together a meeting or something with your team, that just really helps. And let your elders help you with that when life and game system stuff gets too heavy. That whistle is probably the machine in my... Here, let me mute my microphone. Does it go away?
I'm seeing nodding and thumbs ups from a
Yeah,
couple.
so, okay, let me see. I can turn this microphone down and talk softer. That might help. So I'm going to adjust my microphone down a little bit. And I apologize.
And now, coming to you live from the elder meeting, our attendance whispers.
Is that better? Okay. Now I sound like a golf announcer with a pith hat on.
Golf safari.
Pithy golf announcer. Filmed at 11. It's too quiet. Gosh dang it. Well. Is it as bad on the other microphone here? Other one was better. He said, okay. Well, I'll try and do what I can. I got to set down as low as possible here. Or how about this? How about I just don't talk and somebody else hosts this meeting? Is it more manageable now? I apologize. I don't know what else to do.
If you want me to, I can start running through stuff while you mute your mic.
Honestly, it was fine. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going crazy. I know I am crazy. It's the end of the school year. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going more crazy.
The voices in your head are not voices. Those are things outside of your head. All right, well, we'll just continue. I don't know. Okay, XP payout. Some of the colonies are putting out an exorbitant amount of XP, or so it seems. There are some miscommunications at times with the XP payouts and how they are applied and what work is being done to justify them. What we're looking for is to make sure that colonies are not awarding so much XP that they go to the next colony and it's so massively different than what they were at originally that it causes a lot of problems. So the standard max is 100 XP per hour. And some of the things that were really confusing were, all right, if we have a 4-day event, we can award 24 times 100, right? Or, 24 times whatever, how many hours are in the 4-day. You get what I'm saying. Are you playing the entire 24 hours? If you are running campaigns at night throughout the entire night, then yes. If you are running campaigns only until a certain time, then I would say no. If something stops, if the entire game stops and like lights out at 11 or something, I would say that it's less likely to do that. Sarah,
Yeah.
you want to...
What's up?
Do you have something to say? Oh, or did you just get in? Sorry, I didn't see.
You just got here.
We've been at Six Flags all day.
Gotcha. So just hit the mute button there. So primarily when the Guardian Vault, the other colonies, the other players, they watch what you give for XP. So we all just try to be on the same page as for common amounts. And we tried to post some guides on that. And if elders need more resources, this stuff is usually in the chief elder section. but the XP can't be getting away from us because other players and other colonies start to notice, and then they either have to match it or explain why their event was only worth 900 XP when they went to the other event and they got 2,500 XP for the same hours. What gives? So those are really hard things to explain. So just as colonies who are awarding XP, please be cautious and don't give too much or we could have a problem. Same goes for giving too little. So there's really no perfect formula for this kind of stuff. What I advise is consult myself or your regional coordinators or your other chief elders or your other elders. And yeah, the 100 per hour is basically the max that we're set at. Like we'll run 75 to 85 XP normally. We'll give bonuses for better garb and helping clean up and doing pickup of trash and set up and tear down and legendary memberships and that kind of stuff. But the baseline shouldn't go over 100 XP an hour. So that kind of keeps us on a good way to do it. And if you look at what others have been awarding, it is 90% of the time, all the colonies are doing a pretty good job of staying within each other. So, but there's just some things that we got confused when some awards went out and it was not clear that the event went longer than what it was and that it went later than what it was. And all we did is we just, got on the horn and talked personally about it to make sure that there was an understanding. So, we're not here to unless a colony is dumping redonkulous amounts of XP and they're just literally trying to flood the system. We want colonies to be successful. And if we put too many limits and red tape on things, well, it's not going to work. So that's not what we're trying to do. But like Mitri and some of the other Guardians, when they start seeing a flood of achievements from a whole bunch of people, that like, hey, where are these people from? What's happening? I mean, the Guardians are catching it when people are getting a bunch of skills and stuff that shouldn't be, or it doesn't make sense. So we can track it backwards on that. Go ahead, Mitri.
It's especially the one that I caught recently was especially because it was a new player and they just got in. I think they had registered like 2 days before that, and they just had a whole bunch of XP and there wasn't any epic or legendary, and I'm like, huh? So there's that.
I'm really glad that Mitri brought that to our attention because, I mean, I've had one instance myself where I had a player that came to practices for a good couple months, and I kept my own notes that I owed him X amount of XP, but until he created his profile, I couldn't actually pay out. So the Guardians do look into stuff like that as well. So, but I'll give it back to our tenant now.
Oh, come on. You were doing so good. Does anybody have any questions on that? I mean, if a colony is downright cheating, go ahead.
Okay, so the way I exported XP for our Woodsong Vale event, I broke it down in the notes exactly what people got XP for. So you saw the base XP, if you did any sort of reses or like any sort of extraordinary role play, it all broke down. And some players like Keldor got 2,000 plus experience for awesome role play and various stuff they did. Is that acceptable?
I don't know. Is it? What is acceptable?
Sounds good to me. It sounds good to me. I mean, I know I use a baseline XP for, let's say we're going to do a weekend event where it's like a Friday through Sunday. Whether you do it 24 hours or you do it 8 hours a day, whatever, I give a baseline of 500 XP for you showing up, period. You're guaranteed to walk away from the event with 1,500 XP for all 3 days just for showing up. However, there's an extra 1,000 XP per player that you can earn based on your interactions, what quests you complete, monster bands, yada, yada, whatever. usually turns out to an average payout of about 3,000, I think, between 3 and 4,000 XP per player, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, and if there is a question on payouts, I mean, if you're trying to schedule an event and you want to hit up a couple of the chiefs or whatever, or some of the elders and be like, hey, here's what I was thinking, just run it by us, run it by the others, and that, it will help you feel more confident in that you're not doing it wrong. But it's tough,
Yeah, and what I would assume is that, we were talking about this in the little text box here, and I know you had said that we need to bring that up because you can't record that, is that the 100 per hour as a standard would be for your base XP, and obviously that's not going to include all the little extra things like individual quests that have XP values, monster bands. In Deep Light, a lot of times what we do with the dungeon crawls is to keep them moving so they don't go so slow. If someone's going to do a dungeon crawl, we give them a set amount of XP for doing that dungeon crawl, as opposed to having them like loot everything that they find in there. So it's just if you make it through the dungeon crawl and survive, you get this XP. So there's ways. It's not like someone's going to go and play for 8 hours and only going to make 800 XP. If they did that, that would mean that they just went there and sat and didn't do anything, didn't interact with anybody, didn't do any quests, didn't heal anybody, didn't perform any professions or anything. Correct?
Well, the way it's worded on the actual LarpCraft site is the standard base XP shouldn't go over a max of 100 an hour. So that can be, it's another example of how we write things crappily. And it can be taken in 5 different ways. So in this case, it's, I don't know, your XP awards have been okay. I mean, like I said, most of everybody has been doing it okay. It's just
right.
Trying to not say, okay, well, you got 4,000 or 5,000 XP for a weekend event or like a Friday event or Saturday, just one Sunday, and you got 5,000 XP for one Sunday. Well, okay, that's high. What happened there? But that doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. That 5,000 could have been, well, they brought in 5 tents, they donated $300 worth of food, they set up the day before, they tore down the day after, they took off a day of work. They, like, if it's still justifiable, it's justifiable. But as long as not everybody's getting that, that's, does that make sense?
As long as we're talking about XP, something that I've never seen before at a LarpCraft game happened at the Rust River opener, and that was they were raffling off 5,000 XP from the colony vault. Are we as colonies allowed to do that for prizes for our raffles?
I wouldn't see why not, because they used to do something like that on the scrolls back in the day, didn't they?
Yeah, we did that for the membership stuff.
We still do.
Yeah,
but it's like do. Once, but it's only like once a season now. It's not like every month.
Right. Now, if you to answer your question, man, if you had a game and you had one player walked away with say $8,000 in XP because he won that 5,000 raffle, and everybody else was paid out right around say $3,000, that wouldn't raise any red flags. We would assume that you had done something like that. Something spectacular had happened in regards to that particular player. I mean, am I right? Would you agree? We like our attendants was saying, we don't normally have anything crazy. I think this was a very limited instance. But from time to time, especially with younger colonies, we do see abnormalities, especially in their first few events. Yeah, I just completely lost my train of thought there.
Well, I think it's something that's going to kind of correct itself now. If we are doing something where people, in order to become an elder, actually have to get trained, and it's something that they have to earn, that's going to make a big difference. Because in the past, there was nothing to prevent somebody from basically just buying an elder membership for themselves and then getting a ton of XP for a colony that they really didn't ever do anything with, and that for all intents and purposes didn't actually exist because it was just like them. and then they'd be able to get onto the elder forums and run their mouth and do whatever they wanted, and just keep all of their startup XP from their county vaults themselves. I'm sure that happened.
I'd say about 3 months after I joined, we actually changed the way that elders signed up. We're into where the chief elder actually has to sponsor the elder. So if somebody does pay for that elder membership, you're going to get a phone call or an email or something from Ryan saying, hey, are you approving this guy to actually be an elder, or did they just waste their money to pay for the background check?
And we'll get to your book here in just a second. One more thing on that. If a colony chief decides they don't want an elder anymore on their team, just contact one of us on the admin side, and it'll be gone. No questions asked. Your elders. We don't. So I don't care how much they complain. If the chief elder says you're gone, you're gone. Go ahead, Book.
Talking about the XP and stuff, it sounds like with 90% of the colonies doing it right, and without a lot of variation, that maybe if we all had
maybe a standard way of bookkeeping to keep track of what XP is being given out. So some sort of like spreadsheet that says I gave XP for this, 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 and this. I have one that I use so that if I ever have a question about why XP went out for something, I can show you the spreadsheet and say, okay, I gave XP for them setting up and cleaning up. I gave XP for donations. I gave XP for being epic. And so that I can show you, okay, they had this many hours and this many extras. That's where it came from. If colonies had some sort of spreadsheet like that where they could document where their XP is coming from, it might help.
And it sounds like that's all that's needed, because if most of the colonies are doing it correctly, then it's a way of having those spreadsheets could teach the new colonies that maybe don't know yet.
And yes, it's on, in answer to the chat box, it's on Google Docs, so I could share a copy of it.
I've got the same or a similar one, except mine's actually completely auto-populating in that I punch in who did what, and then I click on the next tab, and it tells me exactly how much XP to award people, how much coin to make sure they have, all that stuff. I've been using it for over a year now. It's like you guys said, it really streamlines it, and it breaks down. There's no question on why someone got everything. While we've got everybody here, I kind of want to get an idea of what are you guys paying out XP for? I mean, are you still running quests and assigning an XP value to each quest, or how are you doing it?
Hold on just a second. Mitri had her hand up before you asked that question. We'll go on that question. Go ahead, Mitri, first.
I don't have. Go ahead.
From a processing standpoint, I do like the idea that Brooke and Mordecai mentioned. That way, if something like what we've encountered before pops up, where the new player or whoever just seems to have a absurd amount of submissions or whatever, we can go back and see. That way any processor is not running, hey, our tenant, hey, our tenant, hey, our tenant. We can just look into that ourselves. That would be like super awesome, amazing.
And our tenant's going to be like, it's not my colony. So keeping your own books is what a colony is responsible for. And I wanted to take it one step further. I think I posted this either in the chief or the elder section, where I wanted to actually have a checkout sheet. So the players would actually take this time to tell us what you did. Because if there's so much stuff happening, especially on the bigger games, there's no possible way that we can all know what happened. So it's basically like a logbook. If they can remember, if they have a journal, that'd be better. But a checkout sheet allows us to keep that record indefinitely. So they can write down all the stuff as well as we could write it down as well. But if you're going to have 100-person games, your checkout will take 5 hours. So that was another thought that we were going to try to experiment with in one of the games. But back to, let's see, book.
Sorry, just forgot to take my hand down.
With the chat up and so many people, I can't tell who else had their hand up. Did somebody else? Oh, Blitz.
So you were asking about how people are handing out XP. So for the Wood Song, we did the base XP for the event, and we followed the 100 XP per whatever. And then we did separate, we divided it. So we did Monster Band experience, then we did profession experience, and then we did general like role play experience. So if you did like a whole bunch of reses, we were giving out like 25 XP per res, or stuff like that. And then if you did extraordinary XP, you got a bonus. So when we made Keldor do the Keldor dance for the goblins, he got like an extra like 300 XP for that.
Yeah, I got to put that on video yet. That video has been done. The Keldor dance is a live thing that the goblins forced him to do.
Keldar, King of Goblins.
Yes, yeah. But it was an experience, and like Blitz said, the award of experience will be long forgotten as opposed to the Keldor dance, which will probably be remembered for many seasons to come. So those are those special moments that make those games that much more fun. And we all have them. So Ufnar, was your thought? Please don't take your clothes off. Was your thought? Oh no!
Sorry, using the phone. So.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I can't even tell when people have their hand up because I've got at most 4 people on my screen, one of which is myself.
Okay.
Yeah, it's. I apologize. No, my thing is, for example, like I said earlier, I give the 500 base, and then the 1,000 you earn is based entirely off of what my staff sees you do. In addition to that, I mean, our professions people, they keep their own logs. They'll show us at the end of the event when they turn in any quest items we have. But I don't really award XP for doing quests. Your reward for doing a quest is the tail you get from doing it and the coin, because just about everything involves somebody hiring you to do something, or it's for bartering for mats or just general reputation. We focus more, I guess, on the role play side of it than specifically the leveling up your character side of it. It works for us. It might not work for everybody, but that's why I was asking is if people were still throwing an XP value on each quest or each scroll that they put up for people to do.
Yeah, that's a great way to do it. I'm posting that stuff in the Chief and Elder Scrolls on, not having, like XP values on that stuff, but coin or just the incentive to do it and have fun in doing it. There's a lot of different ways to do it. So we really encourage elders and even players to share what has worked and what hasn't. A lot of us as colonies feed off of each other in seeing what works and what didn't, hearing what players really enjoyed and what they don't enjoy. And it all helps us as colonies to become better colonies, to try to outmatch the other colony who did something else. And it's a great competition because all the players in the colonies win. Eric, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. Kind of going off what Ufnar said and back to what you said about elders not eldering. What do you think about having elders carry around like little XP cards, and if ever they see good roleplay at events, even if they're not there, so that they can just drop, 600 XP? How do the other elders feel about that? I know D&D does a system like that where if the DM is impressed by your roleplay, he gives you a little initiative chip where you can re-roll a dice or something like that. But I think it would be really good to keep people in character.
That's a great way to do it. My thoughts on it are that generally, if somebody does something epic, you're not going to hear it from that person. You're going to hear it from 4 other people that saw it take place. But I'm dealing with a smaller player base. My games average about 30 people as opposed to the 70 you guys see. So, I mean, I'm probably a worse judgment on that than everybody else.
Not really. I mean, we have players that have 5 people, we have 50, we have whatever. It's really the collaboration of ideas that we're sharing here are worth more than anything. So, what Tripp said, that's great. You know, let's have like if you're doing it in the Southern Wilds colony, you know, post that in the Elder section of why that's working for you and why the players like it, or you know, we tried this and it totally sucked and the players didn't like it and here's why. You know, all of that stuff is in the Elder resources that you can share. Because I've hosted terrible games, I've hosted awesome games, and I can share many of those experiences of, oh yeah, don't do that, that's not a good idea, or here's some things that really did work well. So just try. As Ufnar kits up in front of us.
Serena, your message did not go through. It went to private chat to me, like the whole thing. So
I know, I can't cut and paste it, and I typed it twice. I was typing it, and then you private message, and then went to you.
Oh, did I private message? I'm sorry. I missed the ice cream truck.
Chat is silly. It don't like to work.
I missed the ice cream truck. I am sad. Sorry, that was the message.
Okay, can I move on to the next topic? Are we okay with this? And if we come up with other things, please post it in the Elder section. That'd be good. Because there's some heavy topics here that we got to kind of get through that are not light topics. The colonies are able to do, they were actually able to wholesale live action product stuff, the stuff that we manufacture at their games as a fundraising mechanism. And I'm just wanting to notify the colonies officially that if you do not utilize that, only one colony so far really has. And, you know, if you're not going to use that or express any interest in that, that's why I want to bring it up. Do we want to keep doing that as something to do? Go ahead.
I do gotta say, it does take a little bit of an initial investment to do that particular fundraising.
Yeah, and Tim has stuff, you know, he got a case of stuff and actually has it on site. But colonies can also, we can drop ship their stuff, so you don't actually have to have it on site. You can order it off the site as your colony, charge retail, and you get wholesale. So you can do it that way. Players do respond better when they actually get to see it, especially if it's a product they've never seen before. So should we keep doing it? Is that something you guys still want as an incentive to, as a colony, as a fundraising mechanism? I know it's kind of tough because we only have arrowheads and a few spell orbs and throwing knives and coins and stuff that we're coming out with. I've got the first sword is weeks away. I keep saying it and I keep saying it, but we keep revising how to do it to make it where we can do more of it faster. So literally all the stuff we did know a month ago, we've had to redo again. So, I mean, the amount of investment on our, you know, most of my paychecks from my work go to this stuff. So, I mean, it's serious. Go ahead. Who had their hand up?
Yeah, do y'all have anything like a printed catalog that we can have at an event? Because I don't always have Wi-Fi on my computer when sometimes I don't know if it's going to be operating at a place, and just to have it there to go through to say, hey, you can order this, that might work a little bit better. Do y'all have such?
We are designing it, yes. We're also in that role play magazine we're putting out. We're going to actually have a little catalog of our products inside that magazine, like you see in some like paintball magazines and such, where it's like a magazine, but in the middle it's a catalog, and then it goes back to the magazine. So we thought that'd be kind of a cool way to do it. But because we don't have as many products yet, we don't really have, we would literally have a flyer at this point. So I know I may be jumping the gun because I'm asking you to give an opinion on something when we're only just in the initial stages of it, and only about half of you have a colony account on live action products, and all the products are on live action products now. So, whoa, we're getting the guns out. It's heavy, but
No, Dingo, you will never have this hat.
I like that I can get it at wholesale. I've actually found, as I know you know, and several of the more established colonies know, having any of your taverns, stores, shops, whatever, that actually has weapons for sale or anything like that. I mean, not only is it, you know, players are far more likely to buy something if they can pick it up, swing it around a few times, than they are looking at it online. I've got several players that it took me forever to convince them to go to Kalamazoo and buy something, until finally I got my own blade and started passing it around. And next thing I know, nobody has anything but in my colony. So I really like that we have the option to buy at wholesale. I've looked into being a vendor for other LARP manufacturers, but unfortunately everybody has either a minimum quantity or a minimum frequency of orders in order to retain that wholesaler status. I know that can be a pain, especially if you're like me and you do everything you do on a budget. So
go ahead. Who's next?
If nobody else is, the arrowheads, especially, I really like those. It's something I want to get into. And recently at Rust River, they did a tournament that was archer on archer with arrowheads. It was by far the coolest thing. And that's what made me want to go and do it. So I totally agree with you, Ufnar, that if you can see it happen, it's going to get you into doing it. You know, so just presenting those products is a big thing, my opinion.
A note on the arrowheads. I don't know what kind of quality control you guys do, but so far at Midland, I saw a pack of 3 where the core to the arrowhead must have shifted in the molding process closer to the tip. So that hard core thing in a moved or wherever you screw it in had shifted in that batch. And then I also have a batch of black ones where the foam is literally disintegrating.
Are those like the current generation, or are they
Yes.
a couple of the older ones? Okay.
Just send them back. I'll get you new ones.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, we continually improve the manufacturing process on this stuff, and now we've got like the blades and such. They're Kalamazoo now. That we've it's the rubber foam stuff. So we've moved to that, and it's working out real well for us. Because that they have that kind of durability, but we've also cracked how to do the coloring, because like Kalamazoo's, after a while the coloring comes off and you got a darker blade again. And so we've solved some of those issues.
Go away, dog.
Anybody else? Okay. Then we'll just we'll just keep it up, and we'll keep it going, and get quite a few more products out, and then make another assessment as we can to see what's needed. We just want to make sure that we don't have programs out there that aren't being used.
Yeah, even if that program went away for the colonies, that's something I would retain for myself, if nothing else. So.
Okay, the next topic was some do's and don'ts for approaching a LARP location. For those of you who are going out and seeking new locations on a constant basis, we know quite a few new locations have popped up over the last few months. because new colonies have come up. And just some general rule of thumbs here that you may want to write down is the when you approach a land manager, it is extremely important to not present yourself as being bigger than you are. Because when you say, hey, we're a group of people looking to host a LARP event, a land manager will think thousands of people or hundreds of people, not 10 people or 20 or 30 people. So opening the can of worms before it's time can actually be a detriment. And some land managers will ask, some they won't. The things to really drive home are that, our elders should be trained, that we're a medium contact or we play literally tag with foam weapons in a themed environment. That's one sentence that most people get if they don't LARP.
Before you go on, I've got to stress the importance. Use that phrasing that it's tag with foam weapons. The moment you say it's simulated combat, the odds on you getting use of the park or anything like that are nil.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
No, very good. And Ufnar learned that one the hard way.
Very much so.
So when you're looking for locations, also be sure that you have enough parking for the cars. 10 people can bring 10 cars. 40 people could bring 10 cars. It really just depends on who rides with who. Bathrooms are also sometimes an issue. If you do not have restrooms on location when you're doing an event, please just put it in the event listing that there are no bathrooms on location. You'll have to drive down to the mini mart or whatever. Most people are cool with either way. They just need to know. That way they know how to pack. Make sure that your elders know the location. So if you picked a really cool kick butt location and you're really excited about it, take some pictures, do a few elder scoutings after that. When you go to meet with the park manager, don't come in costume. Please look as humanly possible, like as normal as you can. They're judging you, whether you like to know it or not. They are stereotyping you instantly when you are coming to them. So coming in garb may look really cool, but they're going to be like, what? If they're not into that stuff, they're going to be like, thumbs down. These guys are weird. But, I mean, if they're into it, then they'll be like, hey, that would be great. But the chances of that are slimmer. So you may be required, if you ask for permission, you may be required to also – go ahead, Mitri. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I was just going to say, you also don't want to go in like a suit and tie, because then that also, I don't want to say suit and tie. Semi-formal would actually be good, but jeans and a t-shirt, no.
Yeah, it's better to actually be in like khakis and a dress shirt. Nothing too formal, but nothing where you're respecting the person you're talking to with your attire. Check to make sure that you showered, that you don't smell, hair's done, just basic stuff. Make sure that Trips's mustache is extra curled, nice and groomed. Yeah, Tim's beard, he's got a little yeah, there you go, like that. Just comb it down a little bit, that's good. Yeah, Murdoch and his lovely locks, If you have again, every land manager is a little bit different. I don't recommend those of us in the United States and some of us in Australia and some others that have insurance, do not mention insurance unless it's mentioned. If it's something that you feel needs to be mentioned, bring that certificate of insurance. If you're part of the insurance program, bring it with you. It is an open door. 9 out of 10 clubs don't have it. And if you have it and they don't, and you're more responsible and they aren't, you usually you win. So that's the your insurance. So we try to provide those tools. And as more colonies come up in other, in other countries, what we want the colonies to do is band together like we did in the United States and offer a plan as a unit, as a whole. And some carriers, it depends on your country, it depends on your laws, but sometimes that's allowed, sometimes that's not. So waivers, making sure that you have, you do risk management. And that's another thing you want to write down if you're watching this later. We do proper risk management. We are a family-friendly recreation. Family-friendly recreation. Tag with foam weapons. Friendly, we don't do anything weird like idols and Satan worship, or we don't allow drugs, that kind of stuff. I mean, you start saying that stuff to a land manager right away, they know you got your head on straight. And that's, again, that just opens doors. So if you think of any other things, go ahead and post them in the Elder Scrolls, in the Chief Elder sections. And but those are just some basics. Okay. Go ahead.
So I just had a meeting with a Parks and Rec director, the next city over from me. And one of the things that he brought up was kind of like the who in the world are you type of thing. They actually wanted to, the meeting started out, they were a little ambivalent. By the end of the meeting, they were offering me, I think it was about a 30-acre spot on this park that could be closed off to everybody else. And all I had to do was rent one soccer field, which is like $100 for a day. The thing he wanted me to do that he said would help with the city manager that I had to go through was to give him a short sort of resume about who I was. Now, I think it helps that whoever your colony master chief, or if your colony master chief is kind of young, maybe somebody who's either another elder or another player who's a bit older, got a bit more life experience, because he knew I was military, and he said, okay, so that sort of stuff helps. Work in education, that sort of stuff helps. To know that you're a responsible person, have that person, and hopefully that's your colony master chief, but have that person to be the one who interacts with these land managers, so that you put on the most responsible face that you possibly can.
Absolutely. Even if they're not your master chief, if they're your promoter, your head scouter, you can give them a name or a title or whatever if you want. Let's say you're not comfortable talking to people for a first time. That shows. If you're not good at that, pick somebody who is. Maybe one of your people are in sales and they're just really great at that first initial contact. Maybe see if they'll help you out with that. It doesn't have to be the master chief. I mean, you can go in as a team. I would not suggest, however, going as a group. Don't corner a land manager with a bunch of people. One-on-one or two-on-one is usually, about max. Great. Anybody else have anything on that when they were scouting locations? Otheram's just like, yeah, I'm just going to go in my backyard. I got a castle back there, and, if I dig a little bit, I could probably find some swords, dead bodies from, that time period.
Grey Core's not here, so I'm going to go ahead and say it myself, because even though we're not using a county park, we're actually using private property, I feel it still applies. I know even you do the same with the guys at Senawa. It is imperative that once you've gotten access to the land, build a strong relationship with the landowner. If it involves donating cleanup time, just anything you can do. That is really key.
Absolutely.
Pick up trash, doing the brush work on the trails, helping clean up deadfall, collect firewood, especially like at Senawa. I know it's a campground, but picking up firewood, just anything that you can do to help out.
what I dropped off at, I don't know if I even told, oh yeah, I think I told Mitri this. I dropped off the wood for Gandelahar at the old Wade House Park, and there was a tree down in front of the road. And I basically just took the chainsaw out and I'm like, hey, I'll just take care of this. And Keldor and I were just like, zip, 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 gone, done. Got it out of the way. We went to the place to put the logs. We put all the logs in, but then we restacked what there was currently there. We took up all the brush. I brought the gas powered brusher thing that I got and cleaned it up real nice. So it all looked real good, and took some pictures, and I emailed them, because that's another thing you got to do. Sometimes these land managers don't know what you did. So go ahead and say, hey, I fixed the roof of that outhouse. I brushed those trails. At the game, the last game at Esker, we had 2 trash bags worth of trash that players cleaned up. That wasn't even us. That was players coming in with stuff. So, I mean, tell the land managers that you did that, So, again, that's just some things that helps solidify your relationship with that land manager. Okay.
Yeah, the better relationship, your perks are going to get better. I mean, hell, didn't Grey Corps just finally get access to like the service roads and whatnot that was reserved for park personnel?
Yeah, out of all of us, Grey Corps does just as much or more than anybody else. Anything that the park administration needs, he's out there to help out. He's now one of the people that are the resource for that park. So he's went from a LARP organizer coming into the park to use it for LARP games to helping with the park to now being one of the go-to people for that park. So kind of neat. I would love it if, the ranger at Sinawa finally retired or did something and, hey, I'll manage that facility. That'd be sweet. But probably not. So, going to the new tracking system stuff that we're working on, can we move to that, or do you need to, anybody else have anything else on that? Okay. Oh, go ahead, Trips.
Has anyone experimented with running an event or a practice, 15 or so people without like renting out the park, or what's the protocol for that?
Actually,
experience on
yes. When we started out, and even for our regular practices, we don't do our practices at the same place where we hold our games. One, it's quite a bit distance to get there. We do it at a city park, but you have as much right to be there as anybody. You get people out there that go to the park to play football or go for a cookout or whatever that don't rent pavilions. They just go, they set up, they do it. You've got just as much right to be there as anybody else. Now, when you start showing up with 30, 40 people, that's when they're going to expect, or they're probably somebody from the administration is going to approach you. But if you're doing a smaller practice, say a dozen people, 15 people or so, that's what I do every week, every couple weeks at most. And we've never encountered an issue other than gawkers. But gawkers are potential players, so
yeah. Ask Wub Wub.
Uh-huh.
What happens when you line up the entire army that's there and you charge the vehicle that's recording you?
Yeah, so we had some onlookers, and more than a few, but just the one that comes to mind. So we were doing line drills, just for anybody who doesn't know, I'm Wub. Hi. And also I'm also leading the Northern Legion Army. So as you guys are calling it, the Northern Army, I don't know why. We're all in the South, minus a couple. Anyway, but no, so the car driving up, taking pictures, saying hey and stuff like that, and right face, charge. Oh my goodness, you've never seen. They came back later, and someone was talking to them. I don't remember who, but but now we have potential players from it. So getting people from just seeing cool stuff that we're doing like that. So
doing it in a public park where people can actually see you, and showing up in a group with garb that actually looks like something more reputable. it's not just 6 kids with their mom's tablecloths around their necks with foam noodles. I mean, you come out with real armor and stuff on, your credentials just go, you got people that have real costumes on, not even armor, but just you look more formal and you're doing things right. And people will check you out. We went through a few business cards. You guys were handing out waivers because it had the information on the waiver. Literally, they were handing waivers out to people.
That's all I had. Again, that's all I had at the time was that I had waivers. They had the website on them. I'm like, go to this website. Here's my name. Look me up. Send me messages for whatever you need. So, I mean, but back to the land management thing. I mean, for us, we went and talked to the Parks and Recs, and it took a little while, but we actually have a whole section of Lime Kiln now. That is, whenever we do stuff, we have the permits to do it. So we went and got, it was just if you actually can go and talk with those people, I mean, most of the time they're receptive, because it's more responsible for us to go and talk with them and say, hey, we want to do this. We want to make sure we get your permission and your blessing for us to do this. And so like the other day when our tenant actually came out and that whole car thing happened, we didn't even have a permit for that day, but we had more people show up and talk with us. And because it was Memorial Day, everyone was out and about talking with us. And it was great for the whole system. We got, I think, 2 people out of that. They're now part of the system. So
you got to be careful doing stunts like that too. 2 years ago, we did something right around Halloween. We actually did an event at a park, and we got the cops called on us because our undead were so awesomely terrifying. We were terrifying the public, and they asked us to actually go deeper into the woods where we were less likely to encounter people.
Ultra has his hand up.
Just to mention of the police, often where we play is basically in a lot of woods and forests and fields behind us. But every now and again on a nice day, we go straight in, slap bang into the middle of a bit of a grass area surrounded by houses. So we can be seen by all the major main roads. We can be seen by all the houses. And then a police officer came over and he went and he's looking over like that. And he's like, "Can we out here?" He goes, "I'm just looking to see if they're real swords." And then he clocked him. He went, "Really?" And he just went, never mind, carry on." And because obviously somebody had said, "Oh, there's a lot of people fighting with real swords." And as soon as this cop pulled up and looked over, he just went, "Yeah, carry on." And just left us to it. And we got about 5 people joined us at the end of that day, because obviously what did sinners do. But the police around here, I mean, we've been stopped a couple of times carrying as weapons to other people's houses. And the cops have gone, "What have you got there?" I've gone, "Foam latex." And literally, they got over it and gone, "There's no to it." I went, "Yeah." He's like, go on. So if you ever get cold round here, I mean, we're starting to get known pretty quickly now. So when people get calls like, "There's a lot of people dressed up beating each other up with swords," the cops are just going, "Yeah, we know. Just leaving to. Just leaving us alone."
Book, go ahead.
Yeah, we actually have kind of the opposite problem. Like, we go out in the parks and we usually run practices about 12 or 10 to 15 players to a practice, and we don't get noticed. And it's because we live in the magical town of Springfield, where we say that the muggles don't stare, and they really don't. Like, you can walk around. We were walking around downtown the other day and saw a man walking downtown with a birdhouse on his head, and no one noticed. Like, no one stopped. So we walk around in garb and nothing happens. People don't come up and go, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" We, on days when we have practices, we do go out in garb and hand out cards wherever it is we're going. Usually we're grabbing snacks before or after or something. But come to Springfield if you want an experience where people don't stare at you, because literally they walk right by you. They kind of look at you and go, "Oh, okay." And they just keep on going. Like, nothing ever happened. Yeah. We tried telling the folks from Avery, and we're like, "Yeah, they don't stare at us." And a couple of them came down and they're like, "No, they really don't." Like, we went out to eat at Buffalo Wild Wings And no one
garb.
in full garb, and no one stared at us.
Yeah, up here the music would have stopped. You would have had to do a dance. You could have charged admission at that point.
Actually, funny thing you
Come
should say
down,
that.
the land
They
where the
said
muggles don't
they were wondering if I was gonna charge like an admission for a show when because I brought the smallest thing in just to show them what I was gonna be smacking people with, and they're like, oh, you're gonna put on a performance? Oh.
Come down to Springfield, the land where the muggles don't dare.
That's actually come up too, where some of us, especially in the Sash players, you start rolling specific types of reenacting kind of stuff, and you could almost charge. You could actually go to bars and set up an entire role play, literally. And I mean, you could charge for entertainment at some venues. That's how some of our colonies are getting that good at doing it.
Just saying, Ren Fair does it every year.
Yeah, they do it well.
Actually, we outdo the staff at our local Ren Fair. I got approached at our last outing there about possibly coming on as staff, and we wouldn't do it as staff, but we'd be happy if you guys would let us rent a booth and then just run our own bit along with your staff. But I don't know, that's a year away, so I've got time to talk to the guys, but I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, with our Bristol Ren Fair up here, we actually talked with the guys that run RenQuest, which is basically LARP at the Ren Fair. And we got to meet those guys, and they were really excited to try to do anything with us. But, it's a little different animal when they're pure profit and bringing stuff to a Ren Fair. That's usually a little different animal. But the smaller Ren Fairs are much, much, much better in that regard.
Yeah,
than the big ones.
All right, I think we've covered the land management, so let's go ahead and move on to tracking 2.0.
Okay, so what I'm trying to work on now is and I've explained it in some of the posts. A lot of players are starting to ask questions about it now, which is good. They're worried, they're scared, which is not good. So I want to talk about what we're doing so that you as elders can inform your players that this isn't going to be the end of the world. We're not really changing all that many skills. It's going to be looked at between, Tim's like, end of world stuff. But really what we're going to be, if you haven't heard this before, and I'm going to explain it to Wub because he's new to the eldering side of things, the Guardian system will not be able to handle much more of an influx of players like we're having. We're all doing such a good job of getting more and more players that the amount of skills being submitted for manual processing is becoming very tough for Guardians to keep up with in processing the Skills Training Center. So, this is going to continue because we keep getting players and more players and more players and more colonies. So we need to figure out a different way to do this. Now, those of you who are in the computer software stuff, which many of you are, know that we can do this on an automated base, which is great. We can do that. We can get a program together and do it, whether we make it ourselves or we pay somebody to make it. The problem is the game changes, the stuff changes, and who gets what changes. So to do that much work and then have to redo it every year is not feasible. I got a quote from a few different companies that some of them were north of $100,000 to develop the program, to do all of it so it's real nice and whatever. Some weren't that much, but it was still, then we have to require memberships, our sanctioning fees go up, all that stuff. It just, why? So do you remember when you put in your professions on your profile? Raise your hand if you did that. You remember putting in where you could lock in that? Okay. That's essentially what we're going to use more of. We're going to use those modifiable fields that you can put information in once. And we've been testing it the last, year, 2 years. We've been using that profession field as a locking mechanism, okay? So XP is basically going to keep accumulating on your profile. You will no longer be able to touch your XP. It's an out-of-game function at that point. Your XP determines your level. So as you accumulate XP, your level goes up. As you get more levels, you can then put more information into those level fields. When you enter the information in there, it locks them, but then it also shows up on your profile. When those show up, they'll be more printable as well. So your character sheets won't be 7 crappy pages long. It should post very, very nicely on a page. When you apply for a skill, it'll just basically, when the player puts it in and it's done right, it's there. There's no skills training center. There's no transfer of XP to screw up. It's basically you're building your character the way you want to do it. This has been highlighted in some of the, level is going to be based on your XP value. So if you're, 200,000 XP, you're level 20. So it's running in 10,000 XP increments. 10,000 XP increments, right? Ufnar, pay attention. What's happening? Okay. He's like, yes. But essentially, we're going to be respecking 4,000 accounts. So everybody who's got achievements, we are averaging or maxing those achievements and doing mass refunds so that everybody's XP from all their skills go back under their profile. We would then take away the achievements and open up those fields that they can build their character with. The skills, again, we're going to simplify some of the things because like all those armor achievements, all that stuff was fluff to build the levels for the warriors and stuff to make them so that they could level properly. Well, we don't need to do that now. Level actually means something. So we can simplify the rule book in that regard. We wanted to do this immediately. And what most people thought was immediately was like tomorrow. Immediately means it's still a lot of work. So it's going to be, I'm writing up the draft. Ufnar and Ronan look at the draft. Then the chief elders look at the draft. Then we're talking about it. So like July at the earliest, it's not like, oh, guess what? The system's changing tomorrow.
The sky is falling.
Yeah, it's going to be sooner than later. We don't like doing mid-system revisions because we lose players every time we do it. Actually, in fact, every time we do a revision, we lose players, but we also gain quite a few. So if we can make it more simple but not change any of the real skills, mechanics don't change. It shouldn't be much of a shell shock to the players. It's just how they apply for skills, and it should make it easier and faster. So whether we have 5,000 profiles or we have 50,000 profiles, we're not requiring more guardians. We're not requiring more costs. We're not requiring, we can keep this thing at an affordable level for everybody. So that's kind of where we're going. And so the chiefs and stuff, go ahead.
This sounds like this actually would make making alternate characters much, much easier. It kind of, what? Oh, Dries is wanting me to bring it up too. So it's like making all characters is kind of a pain now, but from the sounds of version 2.0, sounds like it might actually be easier.
Yeah, sharing XP will be the hardest part because you won't be able to actually transfer XP between characters anymore because that's not how the system's working. The XP is bound to your profile. So let's say you run your alt at a game. It would actually have to be written on your character sheet that half my XP is going here, half my XP is going here, or something. Because once the XP from the colony is transferred to the character can't shift XP around anymore. That's because it's required for your level. So if you dumped 100,000 XP and you were level 10, okay, but now you're not level 10 anymore because you're giving away your XP. You can't do that. So that's going to be the major change. Who had their hand up first? Somebody go.
All right. No, I meant like setting up an alternative character. It's like getting that whole setup with the Guardian and all that stuff. It's kind of a pain, but the version 2.0 sounds like that's kind of fixed.
Yeah, sorta. Some folks have problems building alt characters, and I understand that because it takes a lot of XP to, you're trying really hard to build a character, much less a second character. So, folks will usually run NPCs if they're not running their main until they got enough games underneath, or they've been in the system long enough to play an alt. So we understand that. I always push alts at my games. I'm like, I don't want NPCs. I want alts. I want more PvP. But really, in reality, it just doesn't happen all the time in that fashion. And so people just aren't comfortable playing more than one character, which is fine. But if we can get more of the alts that, you're right, Tim, it should be easier. It should be easier. But from an XP transfer section part of it, colonies may have to they're going to change a little bit on how that works. Go ahead, Lori.
So if I'm understanding this right, for example, if a person plays, their main character and then they switch to their alt, we're just shifting where the Guardians are having to deal with this XP. So now instead of having to deal with skills transfers, we're shifting that splitting of the XP. Well, I played my main so many hours and I played my alt so many hours, so I want my XP to reflect, all of that jazz.
Yeah, essentially the player has to divvy up. It's an agreement between the colony and the player. If they played their alt for, say, 4 hours and they played their main for 6 hours, it's going to have to be split from the colony instead of the colony saying, okay, I'm just going to throw 1,600 XP at your one character. You divide it however you see fit, because we can't switch XP. So the switching between alts and mains may be difficult or maybe become impossible for some colonies, and that's understandable. Sometimes that's how you got to do it. So, but
Murdoch actually brings up a good point. He said in the chat, let me find it real quick. Something about if the points are bound to an account, how is that going to affect the switching of XP from a guild vault to players?
Guild vaults can still transfer in. It's a vault. They'll be able to assign, but they can't. Yeah, they won't be able to at the game. We'll have to work on that. But at the game, let's say a guild comes in with 30 people, and they want to say, okay, you're going to have to tell the colony, part of my XP is going to my guild. We're going to have to come up with a form or something if that's going to be the way it's going to be. Or colonies aren't going to be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Time to add another checkbox to the registration.
Yeah. No more checkboxes. Go ahead, Tim.
Unfortunately, that's going to be the trade-off. Like I said, I don't think that you're really... I can see how you are, in a way, reducing the backside work, but in a lot of it, it's just transferring it to a different portion of the backside. Does that make sense?
Not really, because the amount of time it takes to actually process a skill is taking lots and lots of hours each week that we can't afford to pay volunteers for. Basically, but at the same time, you're correct. If somebody goes in there and just starts entering information on their profile, they can screw themselves up. They could come in. Somebody could come in with a bunch of skills and have no XP to back it up, and basically they've screwed up their whole account. We would just have to clear that account. But from what we learned with professions is people who are putting in, because you can do that right now with professions. You can put, I am a wallaby with a lumberjack skill. You could literally put that in the professions box and it will bind to your account. And people don't do it. So there is a risk. There is a risk that, but we're going to have to really make sure people understand this is changing, and here's how it's changing.
Okay,
Tim, did
I'm
you
sorry.
have anything else yet?
Yes. My friend was wondering about. Drysis was wondering: is there a way to have everything go to the same email? If you have alternative characters, we like to get notifications on them. And
can I register an alternative character with the first email that I use for my main?
Did you hear that?
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it can't. You can do it on the community side, but that doesn't help you much because that's not a character account. What I do, like with my Blaz character, I have that email set up specifically for Blaz. And then what I do is I have it forward. So that Gmail account, blaz@gmail.com or whatever it is, I just set it to forward all emails to my regular account. So I know it's coming from Blaz because it comes from that account. I get to see the message because it says it in the email, and it's still a way to do it. I know it's honky, but it's a way that we're trying to prevent one email account, because this happened. One email account creates 17 profiles. I mean, either you allow it or you don't. There's no in between. So.
In response to Berna, purple shirt, headphones. I don't know how to pronounce your name. I process every night when I get home from work, and it takes me between 2 and 3 hours to process between 20 and 70,000 X worth of. So it takes a lot of time checking and double checking who can have what skill, if their race allows it, if their class allows it, if their professions allow it.
Bomb on your echoing.
Oh, I'm echoing? I don't know how to fix that.
It was Chris. You're good.
Oh, okay. Where did I lose you at? Should I just start over?
You were saying 70,000 XP a night.
Yeah, so between 20,000 to 70,000, and I've even had up to 90,000 XP, and that has taken me 2 or 3 hours just to go through with the checking of what people can have versus what their race or their class or their professions. You know, if they have the profession, if they don't have it, it takes a lot of double checking, a lot of work to process a skill. So, you know, having someone else, if they know what they can have, if they can just put it into their little field, you know, and it accepts it, that is so much easier than 1 or 2 or 5 people going through and checking each individual scroll for one person's single achievement.
So, in essence, 2 to 5 hours being processed, sometimes a night. The Guardians get, I mean, it's why we go through so many Guardians. It's why people get burned out, because it's for the 1% of XP that a Guardian gets for processing that stuff. 1% is not justifiable, and we can't pay them because we're not charging enough for anything to pay anybody. So, this system has to happen.
It's actually toned down quite a bit, because I know when I stopped processing, I was averaging anywhere from 1 to 200,000 every time I did again. So, yes, I hear you, child.
So with the new system, it should alleviate that. And if we can, again, it's not like we're starting from, this idea might work because we've already been doing it with professions the last 2 years. So we know people have been doing it right. And for the most part, they are. Some people are entering stuff in the profession before they're ready, or they do it wrong. And it's very obvious when you do the player check-in and you look at their character sheet, it's wrong. And you'll be able, as a colony and as elders, you'll be able to check that character sheet and be like, okay, they have 30,000 XP. You're level 3. Gotcha. All right. The fields for the first 3 levels should be the only ones filled in, because the other ones won't even show up unless there's something in that field. That field won't show up on the profile. And you'll be able to see the skills, and we'll require them to put that in there. So again, we're not starting from zero. We know that this has been working the last 2 years. So, but I can't guarantee it's going to work until we try it all the way through. And again, the Chiefs are going to be able to eyeball this thing before it goes live, but it has to happen, because if we got bombarded with 5,000 profiles next month, we'd be screwed, folks. We couldn't keep up, and we're already having a hard time keeping up.
Berna had a question in the chat. It says, is there some place where I can see the skill tree progressions? There is. Stop posting, people. There is.
That's where my concerns are.
Okay, thank you, because I couldn't scroll up fast.
Seeing that. And our tenant actually kind of jumped in and addressed that a little bit, saying that the chief elders were going to get a chance to see this. Unfortunately for myself, as many of you probably saw if you were on the scrolls earlier today, in a bit of limbo as far as all of that goes. So
yeah, what we don't want to do is open it up for a full elder discussion, because we'll never get anything passed. Too many people will look at it. There'll be too many things. All great ideas, but when we have to really push something, I have to go to the core team of chief elders to be like, hey, look, this needs to be done by like Thursday. Let's do something. Some of us have sat on the freaking chat for 12 hours, almost entirely, trying to hash these details out. So, but if you want to see an example, if you go to the Risen and look at Malgar Jatuk, which is my Risen character, you can actually see I actually have that up. I actually have on risenlarp.com, that profile is set up with that example for the first 2 fields. It may not be exactly how it's going to look at the end, but it was to prove that the actual system can handle it, and it does work.
yeah, I've checked out the profile before. I guess, like I said, it's more from that the software will work, less that the time to process will be less. That's not where the concern is. I think what the concern a lot of people, or at least the concern that I have, is what are my skills going to look like? So right now, I can look at my profile. I know what my skills are. I know where I'm going next. I know what I'm saving up for. But as soon as you start pulling that stuff off a character profile and go, here you go, here's all your XP back, go forth, pick new skills, I think that's what's scaring people. And I think that's because now we don't know what that map is. And I guess that's what I'm asking. Is there some place where we could get a sneak peek at that map?
I can tell you.
Go
ahead.
I was going to say, what I actually did to alleviate some of the concerns with my players, I broke everything down, like what their current XP value is with all the skills on their profile in a spreadsheet, and looked at not only what their XP value was, but also how many skills they had. I also explained that armor's getting reduced, weapons are getting reduced, so that'll be even less skills that you're needed, or you're going to be binding to your profile. I'm working on it, child. But at the same time, that'll give you a base figure where you're at right now, and you've got to remember that when he does this refund, we're paying out at the maximum that skill is worth. So let's say I get light armor for say 1,000 for my torso piece. You get light armor for 30,000. Well, we're both getting refunded 30,000.
So all the characters that are currently in the system are going to be higher level than if you started a new character. And the only reason we're doing that is because I'm not going through 4,000 different profiles and figuring out who gets what exactly back. You're going to get more than what you've paid in, because I have to go, this skill is going to refund everybody this amount, and I'm going to do a mass refund of that skill. Because otherwise this will take 6 months. The forums would have to be down for 6 months. Ufnar and I and a few others have processed it when it was 2,500. And it took us, and it was an entire team of people to refund everybody when this had to happen 2 years ago. When we went
I think it was 3 days solid.
It was 3 days solid, literally of nonstop, 24-hour. It was terrible. It was absolutely horrible. Don't kick the baby. What? So does anybody else have any questions on that? Just know that the core of the mechanics are not changing. Some of the skills are being reduced because it's pretty obvious in armor, when armor has a ridiculous amount of skills that it really doesn't need. It was the only way to match mage with warrior for how and who could get what. So because it's based on the level now, it's how the warrior gets things will be determined differently. So while the mage may have more like magic that they can get, they still have to pick 2 professions per level. So they're going to have a tough choice. They have more choices possibly because of that, but they still have to choose. Go ahead.
Is Skills Processing Center still going to operate as normal until the exact time that this is implemented?
Yep. Yep, we still have the Guardians going strong. So doing the best we can on that. Go ahead.
So right now, when you have a character and your character goes from being a live character to an undead character, you transfer that XP over to a secondary account. How do you want to handle that with this new system?
Actually, it's a respec of the current account.
Okay, so that you respec the whole thing and the name and everything.
Well,
That's the way to do it.
Like if our tenant suddenly becomes undead, his name could still. I mean, it's like a character respec. So in that respec, you can change your name.
I'm glad he has his hand up.
So is there a place we can read all these like proposed changes or something like that?
The chief elders will have a go at the draft before anybody. After Ufnar and Ronan look at it, when I'm able to sit down and finish it. It's about half done right now.
Okay, thank you.
And I am hounding him daily about it, so don't worry.
Daily, sometimes hourly. This is a big thing, though, so, I mean, we're taking our time. As immediate as I made it sound, it's still a major change, so we have to be careful. But all of the things that, like, if there is something that has a lot of support in the elder section, something that either was voted on or everybody agreed to with the system rule changes, like the merchant abilities and that kind of stuff, we're going to propose those in this draft. So this book, once it's approved, shouldn't need revision until 2017. And we're trying to change all those little spelling errors and grammar stuff, and everybody's doing a great job of pointing out all that really annoying stuff that we thought we caught and we just, haven't. I'm glad I don't write books for a living.
Very good
I would be
question.
fired.
That's a very good question, Murdog. Did Zalman really just eat a candle? Okay. Also, while we're on the topic of changing the subject, what will have the question of character respec and undead alts? Alts, not alts. Alternate characters. Discuss.
I think he covered it.
Oh.
I did get a chance to.
Was that when I took my selfie?
I think so.
Okay.
Because I had asked, and the answer that he gave to that was that go respec your character, and you can change your name and have your skills transfer, or not your skills, but your points transfer over, and then respec your new undead.
there's going to be a few day delay of we'll do the mass refund to everybody and be like, okay, before the XP locks, go ahead and assign the XP to the characters you want. Here's the new rule book. Take a few days to look at it. These will lock on this day. So you'll be able to switch around your last XPs to your characters and divvy it up however you need to divvy it up. It won't be an instant lock. Okay. That was the last subject that I had. And basically, once that new system is in place, the other rule books can come out, because that's how the other systems have to be done as well. It's unfeasible to think that 3 or 6 guardians can be assigned to each of the rule sets or any of the game genres that want to be played. I do want to bring up one additional topic that I want elders to think about. While the core of LarpCraft has always been the small colony, because that's where our roots are grounded, the idea is to progress colonies to grow, to give them the tools to grow, and to help them group up with other colonies within their region to eventually host bigger games if it's deemed available or possible with their elder teams and the colonies that feel comfortable doing this. Many of the colonies are doing this just for fun, but quite a few of the colonies and more of the colonies are now wanting to do this as a business. So to do this as something that, you want to get the big props, you want to have the land, you want to do that kind of stuff, it has to go beyond the backyard mechanics. It has to go beyond 30 people. So I've been stressing out and pushing very hard with the groups, with the armies, with recruiting, with how do we classify events to dictate what a big event is? How do we define it? I've been asking many of you who are on this chat today, how have other groups done it? How have you seen it done in the past? How has it been done right? How has it been done wrong? I don't want to do it wrong, but I don't believe that the way we currently have events set up as LarpCraft in the rulebook is the final answer yet. And we have been blessed with southern Wisconsin having so many colonies, so many great colonies, and so many folks willing to work together to try and, collaborate to get some bigger games going. And I really want to focus on that in November. There's an elder meeting that's worldwide. If you can't be here, which mostly you can't, you will be able to live stream in the Zoom meeting, whatever, when we're doing these discussions. We need to try to put our heads together and think, when a colony grows to a certain size, or when a colony can work with another colony, how do we do some of these things where we can co-promote some of these events? How do we get past the 100-player mark? How do we get past the 500-player mark or 300-player mark? What type of time is it going to take to do this? And how do we let players know that we're doing this? Because the mission isn't clear either. So we didn't define that because a lot of us are just doing this for fun with their 30, 40 people or 20 people or 10 people or whatever. But we have to have something in place for those who are really serious, who want to invest a lot of time and money into this, who want to make this something more than just the backyard club. So I want to stress that importance. And we played with the army thing. We've broken some stuff with that army mechanic and how rulers and stuff work. We're going to try to incorporate that and let some of the chiefs look at some of the stuff that Murdoch, myself, and a few others have been formalizing to do it properly without breaking games, because there's some backside mechanic stuff that you have to do. If you want to put together
we're
a big
not out
group,
to wreck your game.
right?
You're not,
and that's what we have to get the point across, that a group of 100 could come into a colony. It doesn't mean they can take over the colony, because a colony is an out-of-game function, folks. A colony doesn't exist in the game. It's an out-of-game terminology that classifies your sanction in LarpCraft, basically. So
we want to add meta to it. We want to add a meta game to it. We want to add like that there's a bigger something happening outside of just what you see in your little village, you know? And that's the idea that I wanted to bring to it. That's what really drew me to the whole armies idea in general. And as more stuff gets bounced around or whatever, I love actually hearing all you guys' ideas. So if you have any awesome ideas, I'll just funnel them to me. I'll funnel them up the chain. So
how do we get, our biggest game is 88 people. That's okay. I mean, we're young. We're 5 years old. We're not to the point where we can get big numbers yet, but we got to have a plan. There's no plan, and that drives me nuts.
I feel that there's a lot of issues with the way it's not necessarily the way LarpCraft is set up as the way we elders present our events. We set them up with player as hero, as opposed to this is what's going on, period. This is the story. There's, like I had said in the elder chat, for those of you that seen it, I've played around with some scenarios, and I like the mechanic that Gru had posted about doing a battle scenario or whatever. But that's something that doesn't necessarily have to be a 100-player game to do. That's something technically you could do with 20 people. It's not as epic, nowhere near as epic, but you can get the basic two lines are coming together and they keep going and going until one's defeated. And you've got that story that took place. And now at your next event, somebody's going to be talking about this battle that happened at a village that's, a couple days away, got sacked by this army that came out of nowhere. I don't know what your guys' player base up in Wisconsin has said, but all the players that I have talked to here in the Missouri area, what they want is they want story. They want consistent story. It's not about the one-shot adventures. It's about a completely progressive tale that carries on from event to event to event.
Could it also carry on from realm to realm to realm? And could it also carry on from colony to colony to colony? If everybody works together to make that story flow, you won't want to miss an adventure. Even, it doesn't matter who's hosting it. Doesn't matter what realm you're at. Doesn't matter. If you miss part of the story in this campaign of these events, go ahead, Book.
One of the things that I put forth to my players, and this has really kind of changed their output, is that the way I describe LARP, it is not a role-playing game. It is not a game. LARP is a collaborative storytelling experience. That is what it is. We are coming together to tell a story. And when you take it and say, okay, you're telling a story, what story are you here to tell? It takes out that element of I have to win. Because when you have 100 plus players, you're not going to have a winner. If you have everybody trying to be a winner, you're going to have one person happy and 99 people not happy at the end of the day. But when you come together and everyone says, I'm here to tell my story, everyone wins. Everyone can win when you're there to tell a story.
I'd like to add to that. One thing that I have told my elders and the Vespertilio County staff is that when we're hosting these games, all the players are coming here, and when they leave, they're all leaving with their own different experience, and it's all their own story. And it's just what she just said. They're the big damn heroes in their own story. And when they walk away from it, in their mind, it was an adventure that they were the star of, and everybody else that was there was a supporting character. And that's how they're going to remember it if you're doing a quest-based adventure. Now, what we have done is we've done quest-based adventures like what we do at Deep Light, where we are just creating a world. We have a setting, we have NPCs, we have quests, we have events, we have things that happen. And it's up to the individual players how they interact with that and what they do with it. And those have been very popular and people have liked them. We've also experimented with the combat events. The combat events are something that we came up with because we we didn't want to get bogged down in large-scale combat, because a problem that we've had is if you get a lot of player characters who have a lot of abilities and spells and magic and stuff like that, and you put them on a battlefield where you have massed ranks fighting each other, it creates problems and it creates confusion and everything bogs down. And that actually happened at the World event in 2013, because we had like 70 some people split into two armies facing each other, and we couldn't really have a battle because everybody was using player character abilities left and right, and nobody could keep track of it. So what we did in Deep Light was we said, we're going to have a combat event. This is a battle. This reflects what happens between two different factions. Everybody either show up and wear a fake beard or show up and paint yourself green. You're either a dwarf or you're a goblin. You're an NPC, you're a footman, you don't have any special abilities. And everybody just fought. And that is something that you can do that affects your storyline and moves your meta plot. And then people aren't risking their player characters, and you don't have the bogged down problem that you have with the PC-driven combat, which is what happened at that World event in 2013.
Right, that's exactly what I was talking about, Brian. I had a point and I completely forgot it. Somebody else talk.
Tim, go ahead while Ufnar's thinking.
So how is war working out? I keep seeing things about war. How is that being worked on?
Still being discussed. We need your feedback. I come from big game paintball, where we run big game scenarios and we do 100 people to a side, and so that's where my expertise comes in. And so there's a lot of like things we can do with it, but what works best in the system, I didn't even think about player character abilities being a big problem and bogging the system until LZ said something about it just now. I need to hear from you guys, what you think are some potential problems with this so that we can try to sort them out. Great Core brought on early on, hey, I don't want you guys to come through and stomp our games. We have all this plot that we had set out, please don't come and wreck our show. Totally understand, and we compromised that, and we said, okay, well, if we have a big group of people that show up on one side faction, we'll send them out in smaller groups, and that will totally alleviate, the biggest group size there. We send them out as that size group there. As problems come up, as we see these problems come up, we want to handle them as effectively as we can, without, again, breaking the system and ruining your games as they're happening. Even if it's just, doing, a completely separate, event, that is just for, these two armies fighting. I've had people talk to me about a risk board, setting up a risk board and saying, this is Wisconsin, go. There's any number of things you can do with it. It's really up in the air right now, and your feedback's going to determine kind of where that goes.
But we've got a formula already in place. We've got some stuff written down. We know how it's wrecked other games. We know how it's wrecked other systems. And what LZ, what Brian said there was, he also comes from running very large format games in like Airsoft and that kind of stuff. So, and Murdoch from the medieval SCA side, and Verna, and some of you others have a good amount of experience running large format stuff, and the logistics of it are a nightmare if they're not done right. So this is why I wanted to start planning for this now. And if you can't do PvP 500 on 500, then our system's wrong.
Right.
We have too much.
We also need to make sure people understand when we're saying PvP, what's specifically being said is player character versus player character. Because you say PvP all the time, and I look at what's going on. Everybody, whether they're NPCing, PCing, whatever, they're still a player. But that's me being technical there, so just ignore that.
Yeah, we're really good. All of you guys doing the colony stuff are really good about running player versus environment. Basically, you set up monsters, you set up quests, you set up plot lines, and they run with it and adapt to it or adapt the storyline. Okay? Player versus environment is what you have to do with small games, and it's what most of our colonies are doing. Actually, it's what all of our colonies are doing. But how do we get it? I would like to have a mechanic or some guide or something that says if you are going to have 200 people in a colony, the in-game faction and rivalries from the player characters alone start to take over. And we've seen some of that already happening. So,
I've seen that spill over in smaller games still. I'm, like I said, running 30 people games, and there's tensions between our factions here even now. What I do, even though I'm running player versus environment, I have various modules that I'll set up, like I'm going to have these monsters be in this area at this time, whatever. But I base whether or not I even pull my NPC crew aside to say, hey, go kit up real quick, let's get something going, based on what's going on. If my players start to make their own story, I let that go and let it play out before I interject any environment. What actually happened at our All Hallows event, we had a player get publicly banished in game. Like the village were all gathered and a court session was held, and the player was banished, and that in turn actually caused more animosity because of we don't have a formal government in our little village. So it was this one faction taking it upon themselves to hold a court session and dictate this action that then sowed, more animosity in the rest of the village, like, hey, who the hell are you to speak for us, kind of thing.
Right, Ufnar. I'm getting anxious because Ulthrim went from 5 players to 40 in 2 months. 2 months.
Right.
What if a colony goes to 200 players in 2 months or 5 months or whatever the case may be? If it snowballs, we don't have a guide. We don't have a system. We don't want the World Event 2013 to bog them down. We want to give colonies a good system for, maybe you have to pick 5 skills. Maybe in their character sheet, we have to put war skills in, like you can pick 5 or something. I don't know. Something that would work, because we can do that. But we don't have anything, and that makes me nervous.
Ulfric had his hand up. Just saying.
Book, and then
I'm going to jump in real quick. 2-hour mark. I got to get going. I got work in the morning. So see y'all later.
See ya.
Okay, Book, go ahead.
Yeah, we got to go too. We're actually on vacation. We'd really like to get on with our vacation. So it's been fun.
Okay, good luck. Drive safe. Have fun. Zamon, go ahead.
Just with the player versus player stuff, I went to Akuma like a year ago. God, it's been a year. And there were like 20, 15 of us at most. And there was like also tell me if it gets too loud. There were NPCs, and then we had 2 factions that he set up himself. And so like we had the problem with the bandits, but then the factions themselves had stuff we were fighting like over each other about, like certain, stuff or objectives that kind of just popped up along the way. And that itself created PvP tension without like him having to really make it. I had another thing, but it slipped my mind.
So ideally, when we created the system, we created it with PvP, player versus player, and player versus environment being able to be done either way. But large group, player versus player, there's too many skills, or there's not enough fluid gameplay that happens. Like Brian said, we got to come up with something, because some of our colonies are approaching it where we're going to break 100, break 200. I want to see that, because I know in big games, when I've been around in that kind of big setting, I mean, you need multiple colonies running stuff. Excuse me.
Don't die.
Jesus, we killed him. We killed him.
We need you,
Oh, God.
Okay, so it's
Right, I'll just jump in here.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The way we've been running it here, literally we've gone from low numbers to big numbers quick, and I've had to adapt quickly, faster than I thought I would do actually. The way we run it is I have a main PvE player versus environment storyline, which they've just started doing. But not all the players start on that storyline. We're all based in a tavern. And what we have is like a tavern notice board. And what I do periodically during that day is have these little, kidnappers wanted for rewards and bandits of this. And what that does is it then breaks the players down into smaller groups because they start grouping together to go and do these little missions. The reward is only given to the person who comes back to the group that comes back completing the mission first. So what you then get is the player versus player interaction. This group wants to try and do it before this group, or they band together to try to do it, or they wait until one person does it, and then they'll go and steal and rob from them and come back with the goods. So that's where you've got your PvP sort of area. So what I've noticed with our group already is we have a set group of people that are very player versus environment, and they want to do the main storylines and work their way through it. We've got a lot of people that want to do lots of these little missions. So they spend their time doing these little missions from place to place. And then there's another couple of people, about 3 or 4 people, that just basically go around trying to hunt the other players and try and steal from them. So they're all busy. I don't find any downtime. When one of these missions has been done, give it about 10, 15 minutes, and then we put another one up, which sets them all off skewing again. So we've got the player, we've got the environment, we've got the PvP going on. And literally within 5 hours, people think, bloody hell, what, it's 5 o'clock already? They don't realise where the time's gone because they're just busy. And even if it's like 100 people, or more, for us, I know that it works. I don't know if it would work for anybody else. We've got a main storyline for those that want to get in the stories. We've got little quests for those that want to go on little quests. But the little quests can be competitive. So you've got possible player versus player interaction there as well.
Right, both of them. And that's exactly the point that I was trying to make, is that I don't think we need to change anything. I don't think it's a problem with the rule set. I think we need to look at it as promoters, as how can we facilitate this? If players want to PvP, they're going to do it if they want to play that kind of character. I do it all the time. Everybody knows Ufnar is just as likely to eat you as anything else.
But at the same time, my rogue assassin wants to backstab somebody, and in a 30-person PvP game, can't do it because it'll turn all 30 players against that one player in some situations. Whereas if you have 200 players, you can seek refuge in some other camp. It's easier with people.
We did it. We've done it this weekend. This past Sunday, we did that, Artanen, because one of our players tried to assassinate one of the other players. So what we did is we made a scroll with a wanted poster, wanted alive for questioning. And when he realised he was being hunted, obviously he went out trying to get away from people, and people were actively hunting him and having to catch him alive and bring him back for questioning. And when they did, he got put in prison for an hour, or until he raised, his friends raised enough money to get him out of jail. So it gave that element of, if you're going to be bad, then parties are going to come after you.
Right.
So it made the rogues sneakier because they had to be. They didn't, they weren't being sloppy. They didn't want to get caught.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear me or not because I just tested this mic. Okay, but isn't it in self that, like our tenant mentioned, that, okay, so you have one person that wants to kill somebody, but you have 30 people. And Othram, you just mentioned a good example where, okay, we're making people become more sneaky now. We're making people think about now. That is in itself, I think, a PvP situation. Well, now you have 30 people that might possibly turn against you. Well, how am I going to get around that? I don't think it's maybe necessarily a bad situation, but it's more, I think that is a PvP situation in itself. It's not, I'm trying to think of an adjective. It's not going against PvP, but I think it'll make people more creative in the way they do it. I mean, if you're going to kill somebody, you're going to kill somebody, but you might go about it differently in the different levels of people that are there. I don't think we need 200 people there to be like, okay, this is PvP. There can be 15 people there, and you could still kill somebody and do it. You just have to make sure you don't get caught if you don't want to get caught.
The hard part I find is you want to be a bandit and like hunt other people. You can get the one person, but then like you've got nowhere to go. It's kind of hard for a player character to join like the NPC bandits, because the bandits, they're going to kill the PC. So if the PC kills the PC, he's just kind of stuck out in the middle of the woods or the field.
How did your player killing go, Zoman?
That's not what I mean. That was different circumstances.
Hovels the Deceiver.
Trips had a comment.
Be a great story.
Eric had a comment.
Okay. I'd really like to see a colony kind of play with this of setting only groups of 7 or smaller can go out at a time, because this does kind of deal with some of the, like one person can't take on 30, but one person can take on realistically like 4 or 5, maybe not 7, but like one person with good positioning can probably fight 4 people. And like 3 people can take on 7 people. So that does open the door to, and then you can always do like on this half of the field, you can't cross this bridge with more than 7 people. Things like that, game mechanics like that, where they're not rule changes, they're not anything like that. They're just figure out a lore reason to do it and have the games do it.
If you can do it with a lore reason, I would say that awesome. But I mean, otherwise, I would be against that only because we're always pushing for higher immersion, a more realistic environment. I mean, if 30 people go out, 30 people go out.
Well, it comes down to a scouting party is really what it comes down to. Is in games, you're looking at a scouting party versus like a raiding party. If you're going out to raid a town, you're probably going to bring more people with more soldiers with you than you are, if you're seeking one person running through the woods, or you're looking after one artifact, So the way I've heard it phrased best so far is no more. You wouldn't be sending more people than would be the biggest non-army style group that is there.
Right. Now
you can back it up with more, as far as if you wander out into the woods with more than 7 people, you make too much noise. There's goblins out there. You have 3 goblin NPCs that just insta respawn and attack you until you're either past the zone or beaten back to town, or the town guard decrees that I don't want groups bigger than 7 out in the woods, things like that. And then it also sucks as an NPC. Like, it sucks to be that one NPC being a bog beast out on a trail, and a group of 30 roll up. Like, that's not fun for your NPCs. You're not going to retain NPCs doing that. So, just a thought, something I'd like to see to kind of deal with this kind of stuff that we're all kind of talking about.
Is definitely been thought about.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. Go ahead.
And what we've done with Deep Light, because we have a kind of a unique venue where it's almost like a haunted house where you're allowed to hit the monsters and the performers, is that we do limit the size of the parties that go through. And the way that we justify limiting it is that the Dark Elves micromanage everything, and they have to give out passports and permits for you to be able to go out and adventure. And that works really well for us because you're literally going through a door into a different side of the building to go through the dungeons and do the dungeon crawl. There's nothing really to say, though, that you wouldn't be able to do that at an outdoor venue because, like Trips mentioned, it could be that maybe there's something where the town guard or the local lord doesn't want people who are armed gathering in a party of greater than a certain number because he might consider that to be a threat or something that, it would be against the local ordinance. And you could have that be enforced by a sheriff or a knight or something like that. The other thing I would like to talk about real quick is, I don't know if anybody else here, I know Wub, you were at Rust River. You saw some pretty serious PvP on Saturday night.
About 30 people total.
There was a player character who was an undead PC. He played nice with everybody all day, and then at night, as soon as undead showed up, he completely did an about face and basically backstabbed everybody in that town. And we didn't even realize that he had done it, but he had used his spirit trap abilities on a whole bunch of other player characters, and he turned them over to the undead side. That whole town was almost completely wiped out because suddenly there was twice as many undead as the NPCs had planned for there to be.
One undead death knight in the horde of NPCs.
And
That sounds like something Gallows would do.
It was. And he started helping the NPC undead too, and making them stronger.
Yep. Well, and that's you expect some of that to happen, but that's why the living is so good. That's why we band together, brothers. Let's kill the undead. Whatever. I mean, you get the lore in that case. So, but they fought him back. Coming in with realistically, what he did was he went over to the other side and he evened out the odds of what was going on, because the NPCs coming through, there was about 7-ish NPCs when it started, maybe more than that. Okay, but not as many NPCs as PCs, and he dramatically, one guy can change the course of that fight, and that's what I think is interesting about this as an idea and as a system. So, but you bring up a good point, is how do we mitigate that so that doesn't become something that's, too rollsome,
And just on the back to the point of controlling player size, like groups, my background, you're in a forest that's like living, so like the forest does stuff. And so in order to go through the forest without being attacked by like the forest itself, you have to have like some master wizard, hiding you or protecting you. So like, I'm going to have a group, and the wizard can only protect, say, 5 people at a time. So now those 5 people have to go through the forest, get something from the other end that lets them come back through. And if the wizard dies, like the forest will find out with a firecracker or something, and then they'll just be like bum rushed by like 2 really, really overpowered people. So that way you're not saying you're not allowed to bring more than 10 people out, but if you do, you're not going to have much fun, because more likely than not, you're not going to make it out. So instead of controlling them, you just kind of usher them in the right direction. Whether or not they follow is their choice. So it doesn't feel like you're part of a pre-written book. It's more like, you're writing the story.
Right.
Good comment.
And this is kind of the point I was trying to make earlier, is we're already set up for all of this, that we can control within the rule book as written without any additional mechanics. Now, I understand you guys were talking about a massive battle, 200 players, 100 people on each side. Skills will bog it down. Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. Hell, they'll bog down a 10-on-10 battle, at our practices when we're trying to do drills. And for me, I could see that, come up with almost our own code of chivalry, and that these are the laws of war, but that would be something, the terms of which, you've got your 2 armies lined up, they send their little envoys to discuss the terms of the battle. You're going to surrender. No, you're going to surrender, blah, 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 go back. Both sides agree upon it, and then they distribute, hey, we're not going to use any magic this battle. It's going to be straight combat the whole way, or something like that. It's something that could be done without having to change the dynamic of the game as it normally runs. Because those big giant army battles aren't ever going to be a staple of the game.
Why not? Why couldn't they be? I'm just saying, the system is growing.
It is growing, but I mean, every game we go to, it's a big army battle that turns us into DAG or the SCA or something like that. I get we don't have that many players at a game now, but when it gets there, I mean, there's just I would rather see 3 or 4 villages pop up and various separate role play taking place at each village, and actually being able to travel to each location as a wanderer or whatever, see what quests are available here, see what quests are available there, maybe get something from this merchant that I couldn't get from that merchant. That's That's the kind of game world.
Can I break in a second, Ufnar?
Absolutely. I'm sorry. I go ahead.
The way, and I'll get to you, Tim. There. Let me present you with what has happened. People are having fun. They tell all their friends. They want to be on the same side. They show up in 3 carloads, and you have 30 people coming to a game. But they want to play together because they heard it. It was fun. They're jazzed. They're all in costume. They want to be on the same team. And you have to tell them no. Now, the way some of our colonies are growing and the way like we're feeding off of each other and, you know, it's given me new life. I can tell you that. The way our surrounding colonies are like just exploding with energy, enthusiasm, commitment. And we started hosting more practices. It's just like it revitalized everything for me. And it was awesome. When you have a game coming up, let's say at Woodsong Vale or Esker, Ganelhar, whatever the location is, the word of mouth advertising is going so far, so fast. And like Wub Wub, for crying out loud, he recruited 20 people, like literally overnight. And that's where we had problem with like the social media stuff of like, hey, wait, you can't be in that group until you're like in game and doing it in the game. You can't just like join out of game. So, but that enthusiasm is really what we're trying to keep going with. And, you know, this isn't like any other game. This isn't like Dag or Belagarth in that there's so many more. All of our fighters are absolutely reliant on the professions that back them. So you could be the greatest fighter in the world. You're going to get canned eventually, and you're going to need support. So for every 10 fighters, you need 20 professions to do that, to back them. So when players are coming in to build these armies in these big groups, they're coming in with a strategy already like that. So when you bring them to a game, in my opinion, if a colony's not set up for it or we don't have some kind of mechanic for it to say, okay, you have a 40-person group. Here's the protocol for 40-people group. I, as an elder, want to know that protocol. I want us to be kosher with, if they go down to Avern or they come to me or they go over to England and play over by Othram, this is the system. In my opinion, I would like to see that. Because then we can structure for bigger games. And I've had 3 carloads of people come to a game at Maywood when we were just starting, and it swamped us. And then they had fun at first, but there was nothing left for them to do. We didn't have groups. We didn't have armies. We didn't have anything. There was no rulers. There's nothing to overtake. And it made me realize that long ago that, if we don't have something for this, I can't prepare myself as a colony leader. So just giving them more on that. Tim, go ahead.
I was wondering for the armies and all that stuff. I've come across a couple people with some really, really good ideas, but the other problem is there's some abilities that are easy and kind of cheap to do, like holy armor. Everyone knows what holy armor is, right? So it's like there's some abilities, simple, easy, can do it in the big army. No one's going to take too much issue with it. Everyone knows you can't stack holy armor. I assume, right?
Doesn't stack, I don't think.
But would common...
So we should fix that.
Yeah. All right, so... And then the other thing with armies is there like some type of point... And I gotta look on the scrolls for how we're debating on doing armies and all that stuff. Is there a point and balance system for them? Like, you obviously can't have one army with all heavy armor, shielded beyond belief, with all the best tech versus a cruddy army of a bunch of newbies. You obviously can't have that without a massive balancing.
Well, I think that's kind of where we come in as admins too, is just to try to divide up the people. Like me and Blitz were working together, trying to get specifically, like, okay, well, we're going to try to pull from this area and you guys try to pull from that area and get these groups together so that you don't have necessarily that.
Even out of the admin area, the groups, basically what that showed to me when I saw what Blitz and Wub Wub were doing between the two armies, as this was, out of game, they took it out of game and they did it the right way, and that they tried to coordinate their battle strategies so that when they were at a game, it could happen. Because if you don't coordinate out a game, you can't do it right in a game. So this is a tough cookie. It's not an easy nut to crack.
And the best that I can give you for that is that I mean, it's going to need to get discussed more, obviously, but the best answer that I've gotten so far for this is actually what Blitz came up with, which was a token-based system for respawns, kind of like if you guys have ever seen Battlefield, like the video game series. So basically, you die, you pull a ticket, or you drop a ticket in, and you only have a certain number of chits to, chits or tickets to go and make yourself respawn. Well, if you have more better guys on one side, what's to say you don't, have more chits or less chits? And if you do it as a risk-based system where you have like a big board where you say, okay, this army moved from here to here, maybe they get more chits for that battle, maybe they get less chits, that's the best we came up with so far. But
because the way the system is written with the mats and the mana and how to resurrections take resources, and you can only do them so many times before your side will be out and cannot replenish enough before that other
we're looking at it from a
force
balancing standpoint, though. It's a balancing standpoint because, okay, so like even just taking like the last game we were at with Rust River where we had like 15 on 15 as a smaller base, hey, what could happen kind of thing. We lost Nom Nom, due to poor life decisions, and we had no cleric. We had no one that could heal anyone. It was such a bad day that we had to step in and have other things happen to go and resurrect him, because at that point we didn't have another cleric to heal him. So,
are you talking about poor life decisions?
I am talking about poor life decisions, yeah. But no.
I'm blind and I have all the money.
Yeah.
And what did that make you do then? It made you realize how important those healers were. And out of game, you started strategizing how that shouldn't happen again.
Right, exactly. Well, no, even in game, we had to start strategizing how that couldn't happen again. The thought process, though, was an evening out to try to, okay, the healers are doing their part in the battles, the warriors are doing their part, the rangers are doing their part, the long spearmen are doing this, the shield guys are doing this. But how do you balance that out so that it's not, okay, we have 8 orcs today and we have 2 guys who are here from this thing, okay, but they're going to fight. How do we balance that out? Now obviously add zeros to that, and you can just amp up from there. But as a basic idea, that could be a way it could work, just based off of what's worked for large systems in the past.
Maybe it's just because I'm looking at it more. I'm looking at it more from the in-game role play standpoint than from the out-of-game the rules standpoint. But I guess, okay, so we're talking about scenario where we have 2 armies facing off. Obviously, your side wants the better army, right? That's hold on, sorry, Kat wants to be on the podcast. So your army wants the better army, obviously, because you want to win, right? So that's the objective. So I guess I don't understand. We're talking about balancing, making sure we have this and that and the rules and everything. I feel like if we put too many rules on what we have to do for balancing and what PvP can and cannot be for these large scale things, we're going to take a lot of roleplay and authenticity out of it when we get in-game. Because if we're talking about war, in-game war, there aren't really a lot of well, hey, we need to make sure that if we're the Northern Army and the Southern Army, they're going to go to a talk and, well, you guys have too many clerics. We'll make sure that we balance out our clerics so it's fair. No, that's not going to happen in a game. You're going to want to make sure that you pummel your opponent into the ground and win that war. So I feel like if we put way too many stipulations out of game on the in-game stuff that it's just going to start becoming less and less role-play intensive like we want it to be. That's from me viewing it from an in-game perspective.
I'm kind of in the same opinion. I mean, the thing that keeps coming to my mind is that opening scene from Gladiator where you've got the Roman army pitted against the Germanic Huns, and they were horribly outclassed with equipment and probably training, but that didn't stop the battle from taking place. Yeah, that meant the other side was going to lose because they were just poorly equipped. But I think that's part of the role play.
But we also want to make sure that people don't have to be in an army to live, and people don't have to, what's a good way to put it? You don't want to make it so unbalanced that people are like, pissed off and I don't want to play this because of that. The whole goal is not to wreck the system and drive people away from the system. It's for everyone to say, okay, we came in, we had a somewhat even looking battlefield, we fought the best we could and the game is over today and we lost or we won. I mean, we don't want to stack it so much. And that was actually a conversation that me and Blitz had initially was, well, we have 16 guys in this army. Oh, we have 4 guys in this army, so far. Well, how do we balance that out if these two sides came together and whatever? Because if we can't do it with small, how can we do it when it gets bigger?
Right. See, and my rebuttal to that is that, all right, well, you've got a 16-man faction. I've got a 4-man faction. I'm going to take my 4-man faction. I'm going to go talk to these other 2 factions over here, and recruit from them. An army is a collection of multiple factions, multiple
absolutely
whatever. I feel that it shouldn't be necessarily our job from the administrative standpoint to ensure that the players made sure that they were good to go for this battle. If they're not equipped for it and they're still going to stand 4 on 16, well, obviously those characters' prides are on the line, and even though they fall, they're going to fight to give it their all. It's all role play. I guess I'm failing to see the problem. Is what it boils down
Tim had his
to.
hand up here.
Generally not being a
Hold
jerk,
on.
but you need to do.
Tim, go ahead, Tim.
All right, so with the other armies things, I noticed there's a northern army and a southern army. I talked to Rust a little bit, and we kind of made a collective agreement in character type of thing, where we don't want to be a part of that.
Cool.
In fact, we're probably going to try to take Hayward from you, too. Or the Northern Forest.
You're going to die trying. That's all I'm saying,
Nobody's really taking it.
Nobody. Well, see, and that's the other thing is that how do we once we determine how the battles and how the system works for that, then we can determine, okay, where are these places that we're taking? Do I have to go over to England to take over England?
I don't care how big your army is, you will never take our island.
See, now that would be pretty epic if, like, Ireland had a big colony, and then the colonies of England and Ireland clashed. Like you're close enough, but you're far enough away, and there's history behind it, and like, oh my God, my mind would blow up. Like, and the amount of role players that are over in Europe is, like, he's finding out. It's like they're coming out of the woodwork on our LarpCraft YouTube channel. And I'm just like referring over to there, refer. Because we had one from Scotland too that was just like, who's over here? I want to talk to somebody. This is great. Let's do it. So
I've been talking to quite a few people all over England, like down south and stuff, with the potential of starting up their own little colonies and start getting because obviously we're just the one colony at the minute. But if we can, I'm trying to plant the seeds for like one in Lancashire, one in Yorkshire, one down in Suffolk and things like that, and trying to get them to start thinking about building colonies up. And then we'll meet your armies on the water.
We never fight the English on the water. That's a terrible idea. Fight you on the land like the way Americans would do, in the air. We'll fight dragons.
So back to the army thing.
We'll supply the tea.
Back to the army thing. I think if just the general don't be a jerk, and if 2 factions are at a war with each other or whatever, and life happens and it's 2 versus 17, don't spend an entire event ganking those 2 guys. Maybe walk over and be like, hey, at the end of the event, we're going to raid your shop and we're going to take you hostage. So next event, like that you and the army's actually there, you're going to be our prisoner and I'll have to come rescue you or something. You know, if both sides are down for that. Like, that's a fun way to role play it, where it's not
Brian,
like
go
you just
ahead.
have to move on, but just don't be a jerk and don't gank.
One thing that I would like to just point out is that this is live action role play is not really all that different from tabletop role play. And you got to realize that when you're looking at tabletop games, there's war games and there's role playing games. They're not the same thing. This is not a war game. If you want a war game that's live action, you go to Belagarth or you go to one of those other things because they're just like a combat sport. It's not role play intensive. That's why they don't have all the special abilities and the spells and things like we do, because they're not set up to go questing or to interact with each other or to role play. Me personally, running Deep Light is always going to be a role play based colony with adventurers, because I don't have the venue to do massive battles down there. That's not what it's going to be set up for. And the thing that keeps me in the LarpCraft system and that has attracted me to the LarpCraft system is that it allows people to be big damn heroes and to go out and be adventurers and to be role players and to have those adventures and go through dungeon crawls and do that sort of thing, because that's what they're making. They're making player character adventurers in a role-playing game. If you want to make the system more versatile so that you can have these large-scale battles someday in the future when we do have hundreds of people at a game, you might need to come up with a completely different system. I don't think you can make one system do both things. I don't think you can have a game that is a role-playing game and is a war game. And if that means that you guys need to come up with a completely separate rule set that is something that you use to resolve large-scale battles, then I could see that, you know, being something in the future. But I really don't. I don't think that you can adjust, fire, and make this system into something that it is not. For right now, for the size games that we have, this system is working well, and people are having fun doing their role-play quest-based adventures. So, you know, if it ain't broke, I don't think we need to fix it. But that said, if you're looking at explosive growth and having very large-scale battles in the future, or doing stuff with secondary storylines where you're having large battles in different kingdoms and territories and breaking out the risk map, you're probably going to have to develop another system.
I think the system has all the tools necessary to do it. It's just a matter of making sure that it's balanced enough and it doesn't break what is the gold that is already here. We don't want to necessarily drop to anywhere else. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think we have all the pieces to do it in this system. You know, now maybe we do need to make, you know, a secondary character and call it your warring character. That's a possibility, you know, and give him some other more base, simplified whatever.
I think what attracts a lot of people to this game is the diversity that it does offer, and they want to see the bigger stuff. I'm included in that. But you have to also listen to what Brian says, because he's been, for some of you who don't know, he's one of a few organizers who have done mega events, and things have gone really right and gone really wrong, and they've tried a lot of things like this already. So listening to that advice is, you know, you got to take that, because you've got years and years and years of history doing these in other game formats. Some people don't know how you've done that, so I was just kind of.
I think if one of our goals is to have these giant PvP army versus army things, we're bound to exclude some people, because there are going to be people that never want a PvP. There are some people that are just happy and content being merchants, being leathersmiths, being whatever. And I think, like LZ was saying, a lot of the things that the system does right is making people heroes. So I think something we should consider is doing something like Last Hope has done and like Deep Light has done, is doing like these combat events and trying it out, where maybe we have one army versus another army. That's what the event is. We have two armies facing off, and that shapes what happens in the future. You know, like the way LZ has been to these events, where what happens at this event, you know, you can play your NPC, you can play your PC with the risk of losing it or whatever. And then what happens during this event, whoever wins, whoever loses, whatever, that shapes what happens in the current world, in the current lore. You go to a next event and maybe things will be different in the town. Maybe NPCs will be talking about the battle, maybe something like that. But I feel like if we just went to, like if Inland Waters just hosted an event, but then all of a sudden we had two armies facing off, I feel like that would alienate way too many people, because there are always going to be people that really just like doing the simple things. So
You're up, Brian.
The big game scenario isn't two armies facing off hundreds of people on hundreds of people. That's just going to be one thing that would be in a game potentially. My idea of a big game is to have 5 colonies coming in with 500 people, 5 colonies running their own separate little villages within that game on location. Everybody's got their own blacksmiths and leathersmiths and story and plot and quests, and literally you couldn't experience the whole thing as one player even if you tried. A big game would be a bunch of micro games together, not a big faction against a big faction. Sure, those will be in the game, but you'll be bored after you're like one waxes the other. That's going to happen. Okay. But all the little things that make LarpCraft special, all those professions and stories, and it's the little things that make us unique. We're not Belagarth because of that. We're not just, hey, it's not an SCA party where we're going to drink and beat each other with stuff, but then that's it. Sorry, I didn't mean to stereotype SCA. That wasn't what I meant. Murdoch's like, God dang it. But a big game is, in my opinion, multiple colonies coming together to make that big game. No colony has complete control over that big game, and it's completely organically unique in that nobody's going to know what the heck's going to come out of that game. And I mentioned it, it's exciting to me because most of our colonies here have the props to pull that off already. Go ahead.
So what you're saying is your idea for a big game to support hundreds of people would be that it would be a similar format to what we have now, except on a much larger scale, to where instead of having like one village that everything centers around, you have multiple villages. So you're creating, like, instead of a town, you're creating like a county or something, and people can travel down the roads and the trails and go to different towns, different villages, and find different quests and cross paths with each other along the way.
Yep, that's how Esker's set up. That's how Gandalahar's set up. That's how a lot of our locations are set in inland waters, because eventually we gotta. And taking what Brian has said from you know how much staff it takes to run a game with 500 people? You need like 200 admins, like literally. Otherwise it doesn't work. So by having split up all these little colonies doing all their thing, but they can still admin in that game, it makes it manageable. But still, you can pull off a 500-person game. You'll see some big armies. You'll see some big combat stuff, but it won't. That's not the main focus. But you can definitely be assured that, you know, Wubwub's army and Blitz's army and like, oh, they're going to be there. I'm going just to grab some popcorn and a chair and watch these two duke it out.
Yeah. And nothing says that you can't watch from the woods as these two armies are just cremulating each other in the blender.
That would be so much fun to watch. Go ahead.
Right. See, that was kind of the point I had made early on in this discussion, was that, I mean, that's what keeps my players coming. We actually, even at a smaller 30-person game, we're already set now, you know, at least 2 villages. Granted, one of them staffed with NPCs because, you know, we didn't have a lore or any lore on why that second encampment popped in. So I populated it with NPCs and created a reason, made it a caravan. And we got nothing but positive feedback being able to walk down the trails and encounter a whole new mess of people with different quests, different items available at their taverns, different shopkeepers, like you said. I mean, we're already growing towards that now. So I mean, I don't think, as has been said already, we need to really change anything. We're already doing it well. What we need are the people to make it happen.
Orthram has a question or a comment.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to say I'm gonna have to bow out now. It's 3 a.m. in the morning here, and I'm up in 4 hours, and I haven't got to bed yet. So I'm gonna have to bow out now.
Till we see you on the battlefields.
I'll be watching for you all on the water.
Manning the castle.
Told you, we're coming by dragon.
Coming by dragon, fine. I'll get the ballistas ready on the castle walls. See you later.
See ya.
Okay, so now that we have
I guess we'll have to. I would like to address. We can wrap it up, but I think we got some wheels turning now, and a more clearer definition of larger games that don't involve just all army on army. It's, but all these things that can happen. So I didn't realize that it could have been taken that way. I guess I'm in my own little world too often.
That's what you got us for.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm really comfortable with running these ideas through you guys because a lot of you guys and gals have been to the big, super huge stuff. You've seen it gone right and wrong. So with your guys and gals' expertise, we can really hash out something that could work. And we don't have to fail as often as some of those other groups did. Or at all. Knock on wood. Go ahead, Mitch.
Got something.
Okay, before we wrap up, I want us all to real quick talk about taking over a Renaissance festival. We don't have to do it here, but in general, well, yeah, we do have to do it here because we have to. Yeah, so we need to talk about that and proper guidelines for bringing your weapons, and do we need to clear anything with Renaissance Festival officials?
I've gone to Bristol before with real weapons. They basically at the door will say, okay, and they'll zip tie them off. So walking in with foam weapons, they'll probably just be like, okay, just don't smack anybody with them. Sure, we can ask people who actually work there.
Yeah, Brian.
That's exactly how it is.
We've done this already.
Yeah, the Blood Moon Orc tribe did do a field trip to Bristol Ren Fair, and they told us flat out, no combat. We were not allowed to fight with each other or anything like that because they have actors, they have things that are scripted, they have people who are paid to provide entertainment there. And if we were to stage something or have a fight, they would consider that to be taking away from the attention that their performers should be getting or the tips that their performers should be getting. So what they told us was, they said no combat, and they said that we were not allowed to charge money for photos or anything like that. We could take photos of people, but we couldn't get any money for it.
We couldn't hand out stuff too.
Okay, so on that note,
we couldn't hand out business cards, or we couldn't hand out anything. So we were gonna make like a banner next time.
Yeah.
Hey Neil, didn't you work at Bristol? Couldn't you tell us about that?
Damn!
On the Clomnon's camera?
All right, go ahead. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
All right. Yes, I did work at the Bristol Renaissance Fair. We can fight each other. We just have to talk to the barbarians. They will definitely allow us to do staged fights in their arenas for the simple fact that that's what they do. They make people pay, buy weapons, and spar against each other. So we technically talk to them and say, hey, can we just spar in front of you guys for a little bit? That's what their area is used for. It's over by all the rides and whatnot. Talking to the people that run it, my friend is part of staff. We can talk to her, and she can give us like a group deal because we're promoting for them, because most likely we're going to have pictures of us, which is going to promote us. And we're also promoting Bristol Renaissance Fair through our photos, showing them through our system. So yeah, I can definitely talk to people and get us good deals on that stuff and let us fight in front of people.
We actually have video of the first one we've rated and Ronan and I were fighting in those areas with the right guidance there. And then the second one, the video, I did catch the Blood Moon tribe, and I took some videos there too of just, they couldn't even walk. They literally every 5 seconds they had to stop, and there's pictures. I mean, it was just picture the whole time.
So how about we do this? How about we set something up in the scrolls where we can vote on what day we want to go? Because I would love to have us all go as a big group of LarpCraft. And Ronan and I already have tickets, and they're any day tickets, so we're good for whatever. But why don't we coordinate with Valen's people and with our people and get a weekend or a day set up where we can all just go and charge Bristol and fight and stuff and be merry and be LarpCraftians and stuff.
Just playing the plot lines and being in your character when you bring that many people, yeah, you are entertainment even if you're not fighting. I don't logistically know, as long as we do it right, we could get some good press out of that, but it sure would be a heck of a lot of fun.
Okay, so then I'll put something up in the scrolls where we can vote on a weekend. That way,
I think later in July, nothing's happening up here. And for those of you who aren't in Wisconsin, like, half of you, you could also do this in your area, because there's usually a Renaissance Fair in your area during the summer or winter, depending on what side of the globe you're on right now. So it just takes a little bit of coordination. And it seems like there's a common theme of limited advertising or no advertising material at cons or Renaissance fairs, and the risk management for the fair is important. So safety is important, meaning most of the time, if you're doing combat, it has to be with permission or whatever, or not at all. Because again, they're coming in and there's a bunch of people always in costumes coming with real and fake weapons. There's drinking involved a lot of times. So it's kind of a hassle. So, but it can get you a lot of press. I don't know if we got anybody from the last few times we did it at Bristol, which is one of the largest Renaissance fairs in the Midwest, but it's worth a shot. And if nothing else, you get to meet some cool people and get your picture taken and feel like a hero.
What was the hero?
Okay, with that in mind, I would like to thank everybody for coming out and sticking with us. Thank you very much. We will plan for the next Elder meeting end of June, beginning of July, something, and go from there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of it. Let's keep growing.
All right, guys, I'm going to